Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists, and on today we have Dan, who made top 8 at the recent Great Yarmouth Regional, playing Sky Striker, specifically the Demise variant of the deck, but this does also feature that cool tech of Into the Void, which has been popping up a lot recently. So no interview this time, but we do have all the full set of insights sent over from Dan to cover, so that includes the siding strategy in the rounds, but we'll kick things off with the deck. So, as I mentioned, relative to the sort of typical striker list, we do have the Demise and the Into the Voids in here, also packing double Cosmic Cyclone, and very interestingly he's gone for triple compulsory evacuation device, definitely something that I think makes this list stand out relative to the normal ones. From the extra deck, I guess the interesting stuff in here is he's playing the Dingirsu and the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, and that's to combo off with the Super Polys that he's playing in the side deck with a Violet Chimera for that as well. Just 2 Nibiru in the side. One popular choice we've seen for the more control decks for spell trap removal is Heavy Storm Duster in the side. I really like this. In pretty much any deck where it's reasonable to play, I think Heavy Storm Duster is really good. You get a lot of utility out of it. Although obviously it's not a spell, so it doesn't work in quite the same way as playing something like Twin Twisters. It's still very impactful. And Triple Judgment in the side deck as well, you do often lose to just those 1 cards. So if you can deal with them with your own judgment, then you're probably doing pretty well from there. So let's move on to the rounds then. So 6-round event, and he went 5-1-1? 4-1-1, sorry. So round 1 against Burning Abyss, he's maining very heavily against Orcust, so unintentionally that allows him to have a pretty good matchup against all sorts of grave-based decks such as Burning Abyss. For Thunder Dragons, they went into time whilst they were siding for game 3, so that's a bit unfortunate, ending up with a score of 1-1 here. And round 3 for Orcust, and 0-2 here. He couldn't play around the IP into the Trisbana, and it's for Zeki Shah, who we already know is an amazing player. Round 4 against Shadol Trains, bit of a weird matchup, but he says that the Compulse here was absolutely clutch. Round 5 against Orcust, a closer matchup, the traps in the deck proving really essential as the opponent was siding into Spell Canceller and Imperial Order. So if you've got those traps that can out those, or can at least out the Spell Canceller, then you're in a much better position than if you've just sided or just mained sorry, if you just mained all the spell cards. For round 6 against Mathmech, this is pretty interesting actually. So it said the main difficulty in this match was not knowing what any of the Mathmech cards actually do. The strategy against the deck is pretty much just set up first and stop the big synchro from hitting the field, because if it does, you have very minimal outs to it beyond making a Boral Sword or a really boosted Kagari. Heater also turns out to be really amazing in this matchup because a lot of the monsters are fire, which allows you to make Boral Sword, which he did 2 times in order to take both of the wins. For the siding strategy, just 2 decks that he's got a set siding for. So for Orcust, we're seeing the Judgments come in and taking out the stuff that really doesn't make a big impact, so the Jamming Waves, 1 Area Zero and 1 Upstart Goblin. For going second, there's a lot more that can come in, so obviously the Super Polys are very impactful, the Lancers stop them from setting up too much, and the Nibrus can also stop their bigger boards. As a result, he's having to take out a lot of the other cards like Into the Void, Color Demise, and also the Compulsors, which that's pretty reasonable because the card is inherently slow being a trap card. Then for Thunder Dragon, triple Solemn Judgment coming in here, taking out double Cyclone and 1 Afterburners. And then for going second, again, you know, it's a deck that can really set up with some strong boards, so you have to be able to deal with those with the Nibrus and the Lanciers. Once again, taking out the Into the Voids and the cards of Demise. Keeping in the Compulsors though, I guess if they do just set up a Thunder Dragon Colossus, you need to be able to have an out to that. So having the Compulsors available lets you get rid of that instead. So as for the additional commentary then, so I asked him how the event was. He said it was really great. It ran very smoothly with quick transitions between the rounds, which is always what you want to see from your competitive events. A lot more rogue than was expected initially, smaller considering that last time they had around 60 to 70 people. Why did he decide to play this deck? Well, he wanted to bring something that he had the most experience with. Aside from that, the deck contains so much hate for the rest of the meta, such as there can be only one, and the deck seems to deal with rogue very well. In terms of the hardest and easiest matchups, obviously Thunder is a very hard matchup, as the Demise build plays no hand traps in the main deck. If you lose the die roll, you sort of have to concede game 1 generally, and let your side deck options do the work in games 2 and 3. Relative to the standard builds, he says his main is fairly similar to most of the pure builds at the moment, with the emphasis on switching to utilizing traps and Demise. Looking at the Pasadena list, perhaps Compulse isn't so standard, but he felt that it would work better for him compared to things like Impermanence, and Into the Void is relatively spicy, he says, as well. As for how it helped or hindered, he said he played a lot of rogue, so in many ways he felt that the Demise was super strong to just generate card advantage and interruptions. Most rogue can't deal with interruptions as effectively, meaning that seeing Demise was really impactful in these particular matchups. As for changes, he'd probably muck around with the side a little bit. Cards such as Lancia and Nibiru conflict very heavily with both Into the Void and Demise, meaning that you have to board them out and hurt your consistency. More traps are probably the way to go with the side deck. In terms of influential sets, obviously Data was where it all began, so that's just the sort of biggest impact for him with this. And as for upcoming sets, he says there's not really a lot that excites him at the moment. The announcement of Sky Striker Ace Seek is pretty interesting, but he feels as if the Forbidden Unlimited list will probably get to the deck before we actually see that come out in the TCG. As for shoutouts, they go to Team Shift, and congratulations to all the guys who topped the event, to Matt Mills for telling him that he was stupid for playing Mindburn at London, and to play a real deck, to all of the guys in the Devon Yu-Gi-Oh community as well. So thanks very much for coming on, Dan, for sharing your list and your insights here. What do you guys think about Demise Striker? Is it the best way to go with Striker in the future? Do you think this can survive another ban list given the recent success? And what would the deck look like in the future? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next video.